Pumpkin spice, isn't it? It's like, oh, it's so awesome.
Are you stealing my thunder?
It should be. I knew you were gonna do that. It should be around all year long.
You knew I was going to do that.
Yes.
So
Everybody
go down
knew.
below and just click. Like, yes, you can pause the video. Click.
No, do not pause the
Oh
video.
my gosh. Come on, guys.
We're having a healthy, friendly debate on
You got
on
all
Facebook.
day to vote for me.
Is it too soon for a pumpkin spice latte?
No.
Is it?
No. No. Thank you. No.
This is what I got very special just for Janelle.
Janelle.
For days like today.
Hey, I can't resist.
There you go. Yay! Yay!
Oh,
Wow.
Black coffee.
Oh,
Black
no.
coffee.
Okay.
Paul Carter again, legend of Moody Radio joining us today. Remember, vote on this. Vote for me against
No.
Janelle. No.
Pumpkin spice. Yeah.
And by the way, Ron also is with me on this, right, Ron?
And
Yep.
Kelly, millennial.
It's a little early.
Cool, like she's with me, y'all.
She's
I'm
putting
for it.
avocado on her toast. I don't know what she's doing.
It's true.
All right, so today we got to talk to you about something. We brought in Paul today because of his sage wisdom and experience. Look at the wisdom back here.
Right there.
We're in the back.
That's
We're in the
right.
back.
Like a
That's
century of wisdom.
Yeah, combined they have like 400 years of life experience.
You are so annoying.
I thought you were really going to. So we need your help on this. I think it's a real issue for a lot of people, and it's from Psychology Today. When friends and family criticize your parenting, everybody's got an idea. And a present company, of course, included. A lot of times it's grandparents.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You got a
Yeah.
lot to say
Yes,
Sure.
it is.
in hindsight. So here's how the article starts. Being with other
Did you
families.
just go like
I
this?
did do that.
Okay, go.
I don't know why I did that. I'm not that cool. I can't get away with that. So being with other families is good for both parents and children. But what happens when your parenting approaches differ? The stakes are high in parenting, but we're choosing to do things differently. And when we do that, it's easy to feel defensive, especially when other people question our parenting practices.
Yeah.
After all, if you explain that your way raises your child emotionally healthy, blah, 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 conflict is inevitable because when you explain your way, it means theirs is wrong.
You're right.
Okay, so, and there's no winning this argument. The proof of any child raising approach will be in the pudding, and the pudding takes time to cook. Ah,
Yeah.
see what they did there?
Yes.
It's true. I mean, you really can't say it worked until you're done.
Yeah.
Right.
The debate doesn't happen then.
And then you have teens. And then you're like, oh my goodness, it didn't, like...
We were
just-
wrong. That's what you
Yeah,
said.
it's like taking the paper and going, whatever.
So, we'll start with our 400 years of wisdom.
Wow, Brian.
What do you do when friends and family criticize your parenting?
Keep your mouth shut.
Let them
Well,
criticize you
you
or
know-
don't criticize.
No, let them criticize you because parenting, even though there could be principles that are the same, parenting is different for every family.
Yep.
And you do what works for your family, as long as it's biblical.
But you got to say something. So, like, I mean, Paul, somebody walks up to Janelle and says, wow, that's how you discipline Nia when she does that?
Sure.
What should she say?
It's worked for us.
Ooh,
Something.
can't argue with that. I
No,
like
it-
that one. When
It has worked for us, although you can say too, but we're not always right. We always haven't done it well. So,
But how do you get over yourself to do that? That's a mature response. And you've got all of this life experience. She's offended. Janelle, right? You're hurt.
that,
Somebody
that
directly
hurts me.
challenges your
Aw.
parenting?
that's okay.
Especially,
But, you know,
yeah, go
I
ahead.
don't have a corner in the market. So God didn't reveal to me this is the way to do it and everybody else has to fall in line with me. It's just not that way. I mean, it's worked for us and we made mistakes going through the process and there are certain things we could have done better, no question about it.
Ron? Before you were saying a holy punch.
Yes, a holy punch in the face, but I'm not sure that actually would fly scripturally. So the wise thing would be to listen to their advice if they've got advice.
Whoa. Really?
Slow down.
If they want to say, you know, I really think this might be a better approach, listen to it and say, okay, I'll consider that. I don't know everything. Perhaps you're onto something. But another along the line of the holy punch in the face is to say, so how are your kids doing? Because most everybody who's offering up advice has got at least one black sheep in their family that you could point out. That probably isn't the best, but that
Because
would
there's so
shut
many
'em up.
great comebacks. You'd be like,
Yeah.
well, I tried that, but then my kids might turn out like yours.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's what you mean.
Yeah. So when's the last time you visited your kid in Rikers or something?
Yeah.
You and I are always in New York with President. You
Oh,
notice
my
that?
goodness.
You and I both say that.
Yeah. It's the
I
TV
think
shows.
it's easier to listen to people's advice when the tone is right.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
the whole thing of like, oh, that might work. That's great. It's how the advice comes across that's difficult. Especially when you're starting out in parenting, you're already insecure. You're
Yes.
already trying to figure it out. So I think, yeah, that's difficult. And then also, yeah, go ahead.
And then your second child comes along, and he or she is completely different than the first.
Right, yeah.
And then if you have a third or fourth, they're all different.
Yeah.
Everyone has some kind of tweak to their personality that you're like, why won't they? This worked for child A. Why won't it work for this one?
Now, if we're going to be snarky young people, because you and I really are so young.
So young. I like when
Really?
you talk like that.
Truthfully, you
Yeah.
are.
I almost
Right.
I almost wore my letter jacket today.
Wow, really? Cool.
No, not really. But what rises up in me when I hear your really good advice, because it's good advice, is easy for you to say now that you've got decades behind you in parenting, or a decade,
Right.
or whatever. Easy for you to say, just go, oh, I'd love that. You've given me good advice when you criticize my parenting. Would you have reacted that way?
I've learned to keep my mouth shut, I will say that.
So you've
even
learned
if I
from-
did not agree
Okay.
with what they said.
But you've learned to keep your mouth shut implies that you didn't handle it well early on.
No, I learned early on that it doesn't do any good to argue back and forth.
Okay.
So it's better to sometimes go silent and let them say what works for them and say, okay, well, good for you. Glad it works for you.
I could see Ron giving a sassy comeback. I could see you doing like,
Yeah.
wow, where'd you come up with that horrible idea?
Yeah, and it depends who's given the advice. If it's parents or in-laws, you've got a certain standing you have to maintain, so you're going to be
Sure.
quiet and listen to them. If it's somebody in the store who sees you grab your kid and say, you behave right now, and they say, oh, I don't think you should be that stern with them, then I might be more flippant with my response.
Deborah says parents do need to be open to the way others do things.
But isn't that what, I don't know how old Deborah is, but isn't that what grandmas say when they don't like how their kids are raising their grandkids? You need to be open to my ideas.
And there's truth in that.
But we don't like that truth, Paul.
Well, I know.
No, wait.
But that's why, really, and we're in different avenues now because we have grandkids.
Mm-hmm.
And so we generally, our policy is we're not going to give advice unless we're asked.
But
And
most
then-
grandparents don't have that philosophy.
You're probably right. But that's what it should be. Don't get involved. They're raising their kids as they feel that they need to. If they ask advice, we will give it. You're right. The way we say that, the way we respond makes a big difference.
The way, the timing,
Yeah.
like right in the middle of it, that's one thing. The other thing is a lot of times parents give advice because, grandparents give advice because they're defensive. So like my friend and I were just talking about it because the way we're raising our children is very different to the way our parents raised us. So an example is I homeschool. My mother did homeschool, and my mom's awesome. It could be easy for my mom to get defensive, do it. And so they would criticize homeschooling because they're indirectly taking it like, what are you trying to say? Like you're doing it differently. So maybe you feel like I didn't do things with you correct. My friend went vegan, and she says how some of the grandparents got defensive in the beginning, like, why are you trying to do things so differently? The other thing is like being mindful of things. Like when you say, my sister just had a baby,
Yeah.
and her toddler is like real antsy and doing things that could easily, for an outsider, look like, why aren't you correct? She's little,
Right.
but correcting her. I've been pregnant recently compared to a grandparent. And I'm
gonna say,
thinking,
wow, really?
I know.
Ooh.
But I remember the
Wait, you're
last few
pregnant?
months when you're like in your third trimester and you just let things slip
Right.
by.
Yep.
Sure.
And then you have a newborn, and how horrible it felt. Like, you are already feeling bad. And then to hear people, like, we don't put two and two together. We don't know what it feels like to have, for example, in my case, 6 kids at home all day. So it's easy for a grandparent to be like, well, when I had 3 kids, my house didn't look like this. You know, so it's that, being slow to speak when we're giving advice, because you don't know. And it's easy to look from the outside and say, you know, if I was that kid's parent.
But you know,
Right.
where it's hardest for me though, is not necessarily from the grandparent or whatever, because I can get over myself after a few minutes.
Yeah.
And like take good. My mom before has actually given Sarah and I some really great feedback in a loving way. It's possible to do it
Sure.
and receive it. But the one that bothers me is when, you know, you've met them. Somebody's got like 1 kid, maybe 2, and that kid came out of the womb obedient.
Yeah.
Like that kid didn't even cry out. They were just like, "Hello, mother." You know,
I got one of those after
I'm born now.
After a bunch of kids, I got one of those. After a bunch of
So you know what I'm talking about. And
Yeah.
you look at these people have a toddler, and that toddler's sitting in a chair quietly in their dress.
Yeah.
That doesn't have spills on it. And when they eat their pudding, it's like, oh.
And you look like a mess.
And you look like
in
a
front of
mess.
them.
And you want to walk up and go, oh, all your great ideas. You don't know. You just showed up and got that one. Take this one. You take this one.
Yeah.
And you show me that your way works. That's the one that drives me nuts. You know what I'm talking about? You want to give them Raina. You want to give them
Exactly.
Elijah.
Exactly.
I
Walk
want
a
to
mile
give
in
them
my shoes.
Right.
Yeah.
I want to give them Matthias.
You
I
can
wanna-
control Raina in the 5 minutes you're in front of me. Take her home and come back in a weekend.
And you're going to come and you're going to give me an award for what I'm doing.
That's right.
That my kid didn't break everything in here. They just broke that thing.
Right. Mike says, not only raising children, but we got negative comments on each child after number 3 to stop having children. And while we're homeschooling, we got this through 9 children and 4 miscarriages from both saved and unsaved sides of the family. I'm sure you can both relate. Christy, oh my goodness, yes. The amount of kids you have.
Yeah.
Sure.
Oh my goodness.
Multiply,
And I
yeah.
started like with number 3. So you don't even have to have a big family. People always have a comment about just your life. Chris,
I liked Ebolia's comment. Violet, maybe
up.
she goes by.
or down?
She's up. I got it in front of me. She said, in my opinion, the best parents are always those that have no children.
Yeah. You're nailing it when you got no kids.
That's so true.
Yeah.
So true.
Deborah says, my discouragement with my children is a discussion to have with my husband, just to talk it out, but not to relate to children. The only time to say something is if there's danger involved. Callie says, we have also, I guess Deborah's talking from a grandparent's perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know, there are ways for grandparents, I think, to give advice. Because what the article we have from Psychology Today, when friends and family criticize your parenting, they said there's no winning the argument. I don't think it's necessarily true from a faith perspective.
No, what you're saying, it's not true for the parent getting the criticism to
Yeah.
win the argument?
Because
So
it's
how do
really
you win
not
it?
about winning the argument.
No, it's not. It shouldn't be.
For the Christian, it's not about that, right?
Right.
I mean, this is where the rubber meets the road in a couple of commandments at once. The turn the other cheek isn't be physically abused, but it certainly is. You can take verbal abuse and criticism. Turn the other cheek. Love your enemy. And at the same time, honoring your parents. Like, Paul's right. In some respects, do the grandparents not have a right in some respects to have input? If you're going to honor your parents, in the right context, isn't there a way where a grandparent could give loving advice to an inexperienced parent?
Yes, but again, I think it needs to be asked for. I think there is a time for me as a grandparent to step back. We've talked a lot about that, Becky and I, and there's a time for us to step back and realize that it's their family, it's their kids, and yes, they're part of our family too. But until we're asked, we're not going to intrude, and we're not going to force what we believe on them. They're going to have to do it their own way and find out what works best. And their kids are not the same as the kids that we grew up with in our family.
Yeah, and times have changed.
And the culture has changed dramatically.
Right.
Yeah.
So what may have worked for us may not work now.
But you also don't. So what do you say to the parents in terms of being open? Because sometimes you can be stuck. Like, what do you say about being welcoming to advice? Because we also don't want to walk around. The Bible talks about listening. I mean, you want to listen to wisdom.
More
And there's
importantly, humility.
comfort and safety around, people who are wise counsel, humility,
It's the
and
beginning
you
of wisdom.
miss out when you walk around like you got it all together. So what can parents do to have an attitude that makes us approachable to give advice.
There's such a difference between criticism and help.
Yeah.
And if you're getting criticism
Yeah.
from grandparents or from others that are not helpful, then you may have to endure it and then choose not to accept that. But, if I'm going to criticize as a grandparent, that's not helpful.
Yeah.
Right.
And there is a fine line.
And there is a fine line.
And doesn't love define the difference?
Should.
The purpose of criticism is to tear down. The purpose
Right.
of offering wisdom is because you love and care for
Right,
someone.
and you want to build up.
And you also want to earn, for people who are older and get into that season, earn
Right.
your way into giving advice. Because if you're not around, if you haven't
Sure.
asked me how I'm doing, it's difficult to get advice from you. I'm thinking of an exhausted mother. Don't come and tell me how I can keep my house or my kids. Ask me, how's my day going?
But
Then it makes it easier to
Right.
pour into a person.
But the hardest one, though, I think, for grandparents and even for siblings to watch is when you got a brand new mom and dad. And they went to some class taught by some crazy person with some new ideas that make no sense.
Oh my goodness.
And logic says, like, I had a friend who was told by the doctor, wake up your baby every 2 hours and feed him.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I've seen that work with people. It didn't work in
These
my house.
people were not
No.
sleeping. My mother is like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
Your baby will wake up.
Yeah.
And when they wake up, they'll be hungry and you'll feed them.
Right.
Right.
Like they had to strip the baby naked and put cold water on it to wake him up.
Wow.
And the baby would cry and they wouldn't eat because they were so upset and they wouldn't fall back asleep. And the grandparent goes, don't listen to that crazy person with their new theory. That doesn't work.
Aw.
And the mom is like, leave me alone. You don't
Why
understand
not
me.
let them figure it
I went
out?
to a class.
Why do you have to tell them it's not going to work? Just let them figure it out.
Because it's painful to watch these people suffering.
Sure. Why have them
Really?
go through that? Yeah.
Really?
They need sleep.
Yeah. Or child welfare service for this abuse that they're applying to the kids.
Oh man.
Christy. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, what I was going to say is my mom actually, I don't know, I don't think she's watching right now. My mom's usually watching.
So you better be nice.
All moms are always watching, actually, aren't they?
They are
True, yeah.
watching. That's
Eyes
the
in the back of
truth.
their
They're
head.
like Santa.
Exactly.
But she had a time, I can remember specifically, where she pulled Sarah and I aside in the last year or two and gave us advice, and it was good advice, and we took it. And it was corrective. Like, we used to do this thing because we took a parenting class at church or whatever, and it was, you don't want to embarrass the kids even when you discipline them. And so even if it's like you're at the dinner table, somebody's acting crazy, you quietly take them away from the table into another room and you discipline them. We got 1 kid, 2 kids, 3 kids, and you get to 5 kids, pretty soon you're just hollering across the table.
Yeah.
Knock it off! What are you doing?
Yeah.
Now you're doing all. And so my mom found this way to look at Sarah later. Sarah, not even me. Later on, and go, you and Brian are doing such a great job as parents. I noticed something though. Sarah's like, what? She said, you guys used to be so good. You pull the kids aside. You do this, but I noticed recently. I don't know. Maybe it's just really hard having all these kids that you've been disciplining them in front of everybody.
Oh my gosh.
What changed?
Wow.
And Sarah was like, you're right. What changed? We're not doing what we said we were going to do. And Sarah came to me like, listen, you got to hear what your mom said. She's right.
Wow.
And then we, even without embarrassment, were able to change this behavior in front of my mother as grown adults.
So look how she presented it.
Exactly.
That's the
That's
key.
the key.
Exactly.
She did it in a way,
Yeah.
it's hard to do it that way.
It is.
She did it where she was bathing us in compliments, saying she's proud of the parents we are. She wasn't chastising us for being terrible. It was all out of love and the approach of, like, you can do this. Like, and I've seen you do great things. Don't forget the great things that you do. Do you see how that's different
Yeah.
than...
And it's probably
It is.
easier because it was pointing back to your idea originally.
Right.
It wasn't like, oh, let's do something different than what you think
or
is
here's
right.
my idea.
Yeah.
I like that.
Or what are you yelling at my grandkids for?
And like you said,
Yeah.
they've been involved. They've been with you with the
Yes.
family. They're there.
They've earned
and
it.
they're a part. So they've
Yeah.
earned. And the way they did it, I could easily do that. I mean, I could see doing that.
But it takes
even if I'm not
courage.
asked. But it does take courage. But it's speaking the truth in love, and it's not the hey, I have the answer here, and you
Yeah.
need to listen to me.
Even though you do have the answer.
Maybe.
That's the hard thing, because
Yeah.
my mom had the right
She
answer.
did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But she didn't approach it as, I have the answer.
But even if she does, and she presents it, it can't be the attitude of, you got to do this, or you're wrong. You're gonna suffer. Your kids are gonna suffer. It's you present the info, and you let the parent make the decision on, is that worthy, and do I need to respond to that, or no, we're not doing that.
Yeah. Helpful stuff. I almost gave the phone number. Why would I do that?
Christy says, this is especially true for single parents. I have learned to bite my tongue when needed and speak up when needed. Wisdom and discernment as to when to say something and how is key for me. Although there have been times Mama Bear was quicker. First, acknowledge that the person is speaking from an outside view. They do not know the backstory and the journey you have been on. Also, some people just feel like it is appropriate to speak on parenting just because. For instance, I will not listen well to parenting advice from an acquaintance like I will from an inner circle friend
Sure.
or mentor.
And
Yeah.
knowing their circumstances makes a huge difference.
Oh, yeah.
With a single parent, I've never experienced that. I have no clue what they're going through.
And you have to approach it that way.
You do.
In terms of how to respond, because you get a lot of unsolicited advice from anybody, I like what you've said, and it's worked in the past. When people say, I wouldn't do that or I would do it differently, to kind of just say, well, it works for us. I've heard people say, when you say it's worked for me, there's like no argument. Because what are they going to say? No, it doesn't work for you?
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Well, that's
You
the
can't feel
same
that
thing,
way, right.
the same concept behind Ron Hutchcraft's phrase I love so much about sharing the gospel. Tell God's story by telling your story.
Yeah,
What are they going
exactly.
to say? God didn't do that in your
Yeah.
life.
Right.
They can't say that.
Right.
And I actually saw somebody just a couple of days ago, an acquaintance, a stranger, tried to help a parent. I want to get your reaction to this. I'm at Aldi. I do the grocery shopping now.
Hey, pa!
Ladies. I try to get Sarah to be like, Sarah, huh? I did groceries.
You just lost the points, though.
Yeah, I know. So I'm standing at that counter, you got to bag your own groceries.
Uh-huh.
I'm bagging all these groceries. And there's a mom with 3 kids was shopping with them, and one of them's all fussing. Because it's a toddler. It's very normal. I didn't say anything to her. I was just like, I didn't even go, I've been there, honey. I mean, because that's kind of rude.
Yeah.
A guy walked over, and I think with good intention was like, hey, can I help? How would you respond if someone said that to you in that phase of life?
Wow.
How was he trying to help? It depends.
I don't even know what he meant by that, but the
Okay.
kid was acting crazy in the cart, and she's trying to bag the groceries. And this is very same thing of obviously he thought she needs help.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say, yes, if you wouldn't mind bagging my groceries while I tend to my child.
Can women do that,
Women do it to
I don't know
other-
if I could let go of my pride enough to let someone else bag my groceries.
Yeah, I would feel.
Well,
You're right.
Yeah.
Let them pick up your child.
I know.
Yeah, probably no thanks, but I do appreciate the offer.
What would you say?
There have been times I've said yes because I have been seriously overwhelmed.
What did you do? What did you let him do?
It would be either loading the groceries for me or even standing by the cart so I can go take the kids to the car. There's been older women, like grandma kind of thing, that would come and help me, like at church, at women's events, like whether even if it's just small group, they would kind of say, well, let me try, and they would take the baby and kind of walk around with the baby because they wanted me to just eat hands free, that kind of stuff. Yeah, I would accept it, but a lot of
How?
times, how?
Many people can't accept that. She didn't. I think she either ignored him and was like, nope.
Yeah.
How do you get yourself in a place where you could she needed help. I could hear it. There's how many times have you wanted help? Why isn't Len here?
Yeah.
All these kids.
Yeah.
How did you get to a place where you could accept help?
Would it be people you don't know?
Yeah, like at the supermarket, I
Okay.
would.
How do you do that? Somebody wants to be set free. How did you do it?
I think acknowledging, oh my gosh, my hands are full.
Right.
It's those moments where it's like, let me stop faking like I can do this all by myself. So let's say if I'm going to catch myself with if somebody says, I'll stand here with the cart, just go take him to the car. Why try to act like you can do it? If Raina's tripping and she's 1, It's that moment where you're like, oh my gosh, yes. And then you almost laugh with the person like, I know I do look like I'm a mess, right?
Yeah.
You know, so it's that, acknowledging to yourself, I don't have to do it all. Len has caught me with that because he has offered help and I've been like, no, I got it. And then there's been a couple times he stopped me and be like, Janelle, you don't have to do everything. That's what I'm here for.
Right.
So I think sometimes women need to realize I need help. And that goes with advice too.
But
You
that's
know?
also gospel thinking. If we
Yes.
want the gospel to transcend our lives,
It is.
to be a believer and follow Jesus, it requires you accepting you can't do it on your own.
Yes. Yeah.
But our
Yeah. Go ahead.
no,
Please.
go ahead. Our culture today, though, because of our culture, the normal first response is, "Stay away from me."
Oh,
I
yeah.
can do it on my own.
Well,
Or a
even
stranger.
if I can't do it on my own, stay away from me. I don't know who you are,
Right.
and your intentions might be good, but no.
Stranger danger.
Yeah. So, but I think we need to be willing from time to time to do that.
Yeah. Now, I said I would give my baby to somebody at church, like an older mom, not at the grocery store. You could load my groceries.
Right.
Yeah.
Not thinking my baby.
Yeah, no, there was actually a really scary story like that. A woman tried to help someone and carry the baby. She went to the bathroom, came back, and never saw her kid again. So I try to be,
Wow.
and those stories matter to me because my instinct is to trust. And there are moments where you got to be like, no, it's okay. You can get the groceries, not the baby.
So, okay, help us then. Because I could see Pawpaw and... What's your grandpa name again? Just Grandpa? Well, not just Grandpa, but...
What am I?
Depends on the grandkid, probably.
No,
Right?
it's Pawpaw.
Pawpaw? Okay, we got two Pawpaws, okay? So, what can they do at the grocery store to approach the struggling mom or dad with the kids who need help? They want to criticize their
Yeah.
parenting. They want to ask in a way that's not threatening or weird or creepy. They legitimately want to help.
I've seen men, like older men, we're eliminating the creepy stuff. Say, oh, I'll get that. Can I get the lollipop for her?
Right.
You know, covered, we're all there to kind of help calm the child down. Or I can carry your groceries, or I can push the cart for you. Things
open
like
the
that.
door.
Open the door. Things that don't involve touching anybody.
What about
Not even
striking
holding rain. You can't hold. I think you guys would know boundaries, you know?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, but you want to be able to say something. The kid's acting crazy. You don't want to go, hey, how you doing? I mean, they're obviously not doing okay.
Yeah.
Is it the, hey, I had a bunch of kids back in the day. I've been there.
That's cool.
Don't you worry. You're doing great.
That's cool.
Is that annoying?
No.
Yeah, I wouldn't
That's
think
helpful.
so.
But
The
then
whole-
don't say, give me your baby.
Other than it does draw attention to her or to them.
Yeah, do you want that?
You got to read the situation. They're all different.
Yeah, because there have been tones where it's like, oh, you got your hands full. Can I help? That's annoying. Don't tell me I look like a mess. Like, don't tell me. No, there are tones. You've probably gotten it because you got a big family.
Oh, yeah.
You got your hands full, and it's like, duh. I don't like that. But the whole, oh, man, you know, can I help you? Or do you mind if I... That's more like you said. It's not about, oh, you look... It's about, oh, man, let me help you.
Is
Or I
it
can-
better to give a specific, like, can I push that cart for you?
That's helpful.
Because then you can always change, but he's given a direct and not just the generic, can I help?
That's harder to say no to. When you just say, can I help? Then you have to come up with, yeah, can you do such and such?
Yeah.
So ask a specific way to help.
Yes.
Can I push your cart? I like, can I push your cart for you?
Yeah.
Could I load these in your car for you and
Yeah.
make it easier? Because, yeah, I mean, you know, like when someone's going through something, let me know if I can do anything.
Yeah.
What are you going to say? Yeah, come on over, do my laundry.
Right.
You're not going to say that.
Right.
Right.
But it's difficult to turn down a kind, legitimate, specific...
It is.
Yes.
I can think of recently I was at Target and passed a gentleman that had 2 kids and got done unloading the cart. And it's like, hey, let me take that for you. I'm going to the store, so, oh, thanks. So I don't have to worry about getting that back. Just small things,
Oh,
specific, yeah, that works.
This is why we bring Paul Carter.
Because he's awesome.
Paul Carter.
Awesome.
That'll do it for us. Brian and Janelle here. Don't forget, vote for me and my theory on latte, pumpkin
Just
spice latte.
A secret for y'all, because we know you're watching. Guess what he's gonna get today after work for his wife? Pumpkin spice latte.
I disavow
so
all knowledge of
vote
this.
for the genuine
I don't know what she's talking
fan of the latte. Thank you.
It's too soon
Thank
for
you.
pumpkin spice lattes. Too soon for pumpkin spice lattes.
No.